Recording in progress.
Okay. Okay, so we stopped at lesson 13 on imperfect. Some of you probably will have revised and you realize it's very tricky. Okay, so we will cover it again this week. Sorry that the video clip was a bit late being pop up and then there was an error as well, but that's already solved. Okay. So what we need to look at is perhaps the two charts that I posted on Google Classroom, the Cal Perfect and Cal Imperfect. So let me show you the Cal Perfect first because that is the one which has a bit of error. Okay. Okay. This is the Cal Perfect. There were two errors. Uh, they left out one vowel here and they left out one vowel here. Okay, I'm not sure how come they left it out. So I'm going to put it in red. Okay, these charts are from, I think, Practical. Okay, they're quite useful. So what they do is they give you the root, tell, and you see the vowels underneath, long A, short A. I put in the accent so you can see where the accents are. So this way, this is reverse direction. We don't follow David Baker's way of 1, 2, 3, but 3, 2, 1 because we start with the root. This is the basic root word. Okay, so we have the vowels, that is the root word. So cartel, then to do the perfect, cartela, cartelta, cartelta, cartelti, cartelu, carteltem, cartelten, cartelnu. Now I put the metaf here so that you will know this is a long A, not an O. Because sometimes you can read it as kotla, okay, but it is not kotla, but it's Ka-telu. So you put a metaf here to pause, then you know it's a long A. Ka-tela, ka-telu. So both of them have been put a metaf. Okay. So perfect and imperfect, the two basic tables you really got to memorize by heart because it is really standard. So we divide them according to the given persons, the third person, the second person, which is a you, and the first person, which is a I, singular form. So we always put singular first before plural, and then we start with the he, she, you, I, they, you, we. So they is not split up, it's common plural. Only imperfect, you split the third person common into masculine and feminine. So you will have 9 in the perfect, 10 in the imperfect. Okay. So this chart I think is very useful. I always keep it so that a quick glance will tell you what are the suffixes. These are all the suffix that are added in at the back. Imperfect is you add in the prefix and occasionally also a suffix. So the difference is perfect, there is no prefix. You only add suffixes which are what is lined up here. A, ta, t, ti, u, tam, tan, nu. Okay. So this is what you add in. Okay. So perfect is quite easy. Root word plus suffixes. Okay. You get the idea? Okay. The root word then plus the suffix. Imperfect, you put in the prefix. All have prefixes, and then occasionally some have also a suffix. Okay, so that will be the difference between perfect and imperfect. Okay, let me switch. Let me switch the chart. Sorry. Okay. So this is the imperfect paradigm. Okay. So the root word is still using cartel, but you notice now you have to add in your prefix. And the prefixes all have prefixes. And it's quite easy to see if you were to divide them singular, plural, and then third person voice second first, third person voice second first, you will see that the masculine one is the one with the year, and then the rest will be with the ti, and then the first person is always the left. And then back to third person, again, he always uses a year, a yod, and then the rest of it is ttt, and then the first person common plural is a nun. Okay, so this will be the change. So the usual one is always the he, the he masculine singular, masculine plural is always a year. Then the rest of it is the same. Ti, all the same. Okay, so you add in a prefix. So if you're using cartel, it becomes yikto. So it's basically the word is now this way. Yikto, tikto, tikto, tiktali, ekto. So actually, if you were to use a pencil to cut, then you will know how to read it properly. Okay. Tiktali, then ekto. So use a pencil cut. Yikto, tikto, tikto, tiktali, ekto. So this one has an extra suffix on the U. Okay. And then here, these four all have an extra suffix. Okay. So you have 5 suffix, and the rest of it, everyone got a prefix. So yikto, tikto, tikto, tiktali, ekto. Yiktalu. So again, if you use a pencil to cut, it will be easier to read. Yiktalu, tiktona, tiktalu, tiktona, nikto. Okay, so using a pencil cut, then it's easier to read. Okay, now notice these two are the same. So therefore, only context can tell you whether it is they feminine plural or you feminine plural. They share the same shape. Okay. These two share the same ending like a oo, but one is a yik and one is a tik. So yik to lu, this is tik to lu. Okay, so we use cartel because the sound is easier to do than the others. You can try using, like, for example, Charmel, which David Baker used. If it's Charmel, then it will be Yishmo, Tishmo, Tishmo, Tishmari, Eshmo. Yishmaru, Tishmona, Tishmaru, Tishmona, Nishmo. Okay, for me, it's slightly harder to actually pronounce. So I still prefer using cartel. Okay, the cartel roots are slightly easier because of the sound. Yikto, tikto, tikto, tiktali, ekto. Yiktolu, tiktona, tiktolu, tiktona, nikto. Okay. So the sound will help you to remember. If you can get the sound, the rhythm of it, you can immediately work out whether it's a she, whether it's a you, whatever. Yikto, tikto, tikto. Now, these two also the same. So again, only the context will tell you. Okay. Tikto, tikto, the same. Tikto na, the same. So in imperfect, there are 2 sets which are exactly the same. She will kill and you, masculine singular, will kill. Only the context will tell you which one is the translation. Yikto, tikto, tikto, tiktali. So there are two shawas. The first one is part of the closed syllable, so it's silent. Second one is vocal. Okay, that's because initially it is two schwas together. First one, of course, changes to the I, but in this case, because you're adding in a prefix and you closes it, then the next one cannot be silent because if it's silent, you can't read. So the second one is vocal. Take, terly. So it's a short schwa sound. The ecto. So the aleph and the noon is very characteristics. Aleph, I. Noon, we. Okay, very unique. The rest of it, the yod always for the masculine, third person masculine or third person masculine plural, always a yik. The rest of it is the T. Okay, so that's a certain pattern. So when you read it, the phrase, you always have to deliver year. So yik to, tik to, tik to, tik to, ek to. No, the ek to. Yik to lu, tik to na, tik to lu, tik to na, nick. So get a hang of the sound, you find it easier to remember. So there's a certain rhythm in it, okay? Yik to, tik the li, ek to. Yik to lu, tik to na, tik to lu, tik to na, nick to. So there's certain rhythm. You get the rhythm, it will be easier to help you to remember. So using other words may not work out so well like Shambel, because Shambel will be harder to read sometimes. Yish more, tish more, tish more, tish marie, esh more. Ishmaru, Tishmona, Tishmaru, Tishmona, Nishmo. Okay, so it's a bit harder to read. I will still prefer using cartel. So if you use cartel for perfect, then use the same word for imperfect, and then use the same root word for the rest. Infinitive, absolute, infinitive, construct, imperatives, usive, qualitative. Use the same one so that it becomes easier. Because if you keep changing the root word for different paradigms, perfect you use one different one, and then imperfect use different. Harder you remember to see the changes. Okay, so in the imperfect paradigms, just keep in mind you have all prefixes, all of them take a prefix. Only 5 of them will take a suffix. Okay. The rest of it don't have a suffix. So when you have a suffix, then of course the accent moves on to the last one, which is the where the suffix is. If not, it will be on the last part of the second half of the words. Okay, so I'll put it on the accent so you can see. Tick toe, yik toe, tick toe, tick toe, tick the li, ek toe, yik the lu, tick toe na, tick the lu, tick toe na, nick toe. The accent is always on the last. Okay. Okay, any questions on the sound like that? I mean, I'm trying to first help you to get an easy way to memorize and remember this table. Okay, so I would suggest like practical or this book, they use cartel form, so it's easier. David Baker did put in a footnote why he doesn't use cartel. I think he mentioned somewhere that cartel is not it's a word which doesn't pop up a lot of time. So most grammar is using that one doesn't seem to work, but I would say I think for me it is better to use cartel words. So much easier to remember in terms of sound. Okay. Okay, any idea? Any questions on this? To form imperfect, we use prefix for all, the root, and only 5 suffix. Okay. All takes prefix, but only 5 takes the suffix. So only 5 are longer. 2.5 syllables, 2.5 syllables, 3 syllables, 2.5 syllables, 3 syllables. Okay, so any questions? I mean, I use cartel, but I say it's easier to probably use cartel in terms of the sound, easier to remember. Okay, so just keep in mind, therefore, imperfect, there are basically 9 forms. Okay, we always start with the singular to the plural. If we use the three, two, two, one, three, two, two, one, there's no double for the three. So it's always a he, a she, you, you, and I. And then the they, and then you, and then the we. So the two you is masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. So that would be the easier way. So if you use cartel, cartel, cartela, cartel ta, cartel te, cartel ti, cartelu, cartel tem, cartel ten, cartel nu. Okay, so then imperfect, there will be 10 forms because you have the split here. So again, we do singular and plural. So it's 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1 because it's 10. So again, you have he, you have she, you, I. Then they, they, you, we. So the you here is masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine, feminine plural, masculine plural, feminine plural. Okay, so there's one extra one compared with this one. So this one, if you use cartel, then ticto, 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 tictally, ecto, ictalu, tictona, tictalu, tictona, nicto. Okay, so it's easier to remember using the root word cartel for both. If you use it for both, I think it's easier. So since David Baker doesn't have, you can copy from the chart which I gave to you using both. Easier to look at cartel from both ways. Okay. Okay, let's then look at 13.2, the meaning. Okay. Um, Let me use the previous picture that I okay. This picture will give you an idea of okay. Okay, this was a previous picture we gave last semester. So present tense, this is past tense, preterite is past, and then you have future tense. Okay. So in terms of present, you have uh, four types of present, okay? And then past tense, you have also uh, four types of past tense. And then future tense, you also have the. So at the moment, we just think of it. So in Hebrew, therefore when we study perfect, it will be equivalent to not just preterite, but actually even including pluperfect, which are continuous, pluperfect continuous. So it has a whole range because everything in the past, in English, we split up the four. In Hebrew, it is all into just one. So it will have the four basic forms in English. Okay, so you can translate as I kill, I had killed, I was killing, I had been killing. So it has a whole range of meaning. Okay. So then Kel imperfect, therefore will be on this side, on the future tense. I will say. But again, it will include all the other possible translations. So, but the best part of it is Kel perfect also include the present. Hebrew don't have a tense for present. they have an imperfect, which is basically incomplete action. So anything that's incomplete, which is including present tense and future tense, include both. So count imperfect therefore includes both future and present, which is why when you have the divine name given to Moses by God, I am that I am. Technically, actually, it is a cal imperfect. You should translate as I will be that I will be. But because cal imperfect also includes present tense, you can then also translate as I am that I am. You see, so imperfect therefore has two senses, future and present. Whereas perfect has only one sense, that is all in the past. Because this one deals with complete action. Anything that is completed, the action in the past, then is considered perfect. Anything that's still happening in the present and in the future, then we put them all under what we call imperfect. So, so therefore you have to keep in mind when we talk about Hebrew imperfect, it has both present and future. Okay, the two aspects, present and future, very tricky. Okay, so 13.2, the meaning. So as I said, that's why when you see perfect, keep in mind perfect is what we call complete action. Anything that is already done in the past, then that is considered perfect. So mostly in the past, but it can also refer sometimes, as you said, to a state of being. So a lot of words are what because stative verbs. They do not talk about action. They talk about I was heavy. Okay, that is a stative verb. Because heavy is not a verb of action, but these are what we call stative verb. State, the verbs that talk about the state of being. So perfect can be used for sometimes a state of being. It can also use for an attitude. Sometimes can be used also for future action that is sure to be completed. That's why we call this a prophetic perfect. Okay. So sometimes we speak of the future as if it already has happened. So we use a past tense. That type of past tense, we give it a name, prophetic future. And many of the prophets speak of the future as if it's already done, a done thing. So we call this what we call prophetic future. So this is future action that is sure to happen. Which is why when you translate sometimes the prophetic books, and then you look at it, they give you a cal perfect, okay, and which is basically past tense. But it is God promising to people something in the future. See, so how do they square with it? So the scholars look at it and say that type of past tense is what we call prophetic future. It is an action that will be in the future, but it's so certain you can speak of it as if it's already happened. Okay, so perfect therefore can has a whole range of meaning. It can refer to the simple past tense. Okay, so uh, let's say I kill something. Okay, so that is a simple past tense. Okay, and it can refer to, as I say, God promised that He will kill, but then you translate as and God promised that He killed the enemy. So using perfect, but we know that it is talking about the future. That is prophetic perfect. Imperfect. Okay, imperfect is tricky. Okay, because it is used for incomplete action. Again, it is supposed to be mostly future because the future one is not yet happened. Okay, actions that are planned or desired. But sometimes for actions that are in the process, actions in the process means almost present tense. Okay? That means still happening. So that will be almost like the present tense. Okay? Or an action that is done repeatedly. So imperfect It's just to show you how it has a wider range than our English. So we really don't actually use the word work. We don't actually talk about imperfect verbs and perfect verb. There's basically no verbs in Hebrew. Everything is all just action that is completed or action that is not yet completed. So we use all these terms. Okay. So in imperfect verbs, we usually use the word I will. Now, what is the difference then between I shall? Sometimes you find they use I shall kill. Okay. Sometimes you can also use I should kill. As I said, all these are still part of the future tense, or I may kill. Okay. So which translation depends basically a lot on the context. Okay. Sometimes the context will tell you, is it a simple future? I will kill. Or sometimes in this case, it is more of a command. So you find this usually used under cohortatives and all this. This is more simple future. Just I will kill. This is more of a command. So uh, you find that when we use imperatives in that sense, like thou shalt not kill, the Ten Commandments, the negation plus the imperfect, then we often translate as it's not thou will not kill, but we use it more like command form. Then we use the word shall. Thou shalt not kill. Okay. May or might is more of something that is possible. It may happen or it might not happen. So then we use sometimes may. So therefore, one can see it's very flexible when you translate from Hebrew into the English, because from one Hebrew word, imperfect, like yikto, it can mean he will kill, he shall kill, he should kill, he may kill. It all depends on what is the nuance in the text. Okay, so so therefore, in our classes, we just basically go on a simple future first. Okay, but as you begin to translate the sentences, then sometimes you have to be aware of the different nuances. Sometimes you may find that this one may be better than simple future. Okay, just like it's so possible to translate the perfect in so many ways. It can be simple past tense, but it can also be past perfect, uh, past pluperfect, past perfect continuous. There's a whole range of meaning in that sense. Now, the tricky part now is when we add in a conjunction, which is and. So basically, it is the verb. Okay. So if you add a verb to a verb, okay, remember there is two possibilities. Uh, Sometimes you add the verb to a perfect, like cartel, and you put the verb cartel. But sometimes you can put a verb to a imperfect, like yikto, okay, then you plus the word here, it becomes it becomes the right, like so. Okay, wet yik to. Sorry, not yik to, and then it becomes a with a doubling dot on the y, wet yik to. And so the tricky part is when you add a conjunction to it, sometimes it changes the tense. Okay, so in this case, when you add it as a vowel conjunction, then perfect and the vowel conjunction, no change to the tense. Let's say, and he killed. Okay, in this case here, the imperfect is he will kill, but you're using this as a vowel consecutive. And remember what consecutive changes the tense to the opposite. So where it told and he killed. Even though this part is imperfect, but because you add the vowel as a vowel consecutive, it changes the tense to perfect. So the tense here is imperfect. The tense here now is perfect already because it's a vowel consecutive. Although the form is, we still use the form of imperfect. So that's where the tricky part is. Okay, so it will still call it and he killed third person masculine imperfect while consecutive. Okay, this one will tell you, okay, he has changed the whole tense. So basically, that's what C 13.3.2C is all about. Okay, when you add a vowel to the verb. Okay, so when you add a vowel to the verb, depending on how the vowel will function, that's why it says here, the function of the two conjugations is often switched when the verb is prefixed with a vowel, explained in 9.2e, which is basically over here. Okay, the perfect with a vowel conjunction usually indicates an incomplete action. So if you okay, sorry, here will change, as you say, it also will change the tense because the vowel has a so-called has the power to change. Okay, so you will add in even with vowel conjunction, it will change here to and he will kill. Although it is a perfect, but it is with a vowel conjunction. So adding the vowel changes. Okay, so if you put the perfect plus a vowel conjunction, then it becomes like an imperfect, and you have to translate as and he will keep. And then the reverse, if you use an imperfect with the vowel prefix conjunction, and then it will become a complete action and he killed. Okay, so there is this. So is scholars struggle with this in the past? How come something like this has so much power? So it was given a name while consecutive. The old name was called while converse. Uh, it was also called while conversive because they thought it could change. There's a power to change the verb. So if you use a perfect verb, but even then you have to translate back as into a future tense. If you use an imperfect with a vowel, when you translate it, even though the shape here is imperfect, you have to translate it as perfect. So that's why they give it the old name vowel conversive. It was able to like convert. Okay, but now they realize no, it's actually this is the uh, an an alternative name is now called while consecutive. While consecutive simply means that there was a verb previously in another sentence, and then when you begin this new sentence and you use this verb with a verb, it actually like continue on the sense from that one. That's why it's called while consecutive. Okay, this form often follows a previous verb, and this construction is very common in Hebrew narrative. So one has to take note of this. Okay, especially while consecutive, you find that almost every Hebrew sentence in the narratives often begin with a while consecutive, and it happened, and it came to pass. And Abraham, when you see all the N, and then you realize because they're using while consecutive the verb. Okay, so uh, so the box on page 77 tells you if you have an imperfect like yikto or yishmo, when you add the while conjunction to it and you use it in the form of a while consecutive, it becomes wet yikto. Okay, so the you can see there's a doubling dot on the Y. Okay, and when you translate in English, it becomes like the simple past tense and he Q. Although the form is an imperfect while consecutive. Okay, so this is your English translation. This is what you do when you do passing. When you try to describe the verb, this is third person masculine singular imperfect while consecutive. Okay, that's how you describe this verb. It's a third person masculine singular imperfect, then with a while consecutive. So when it to, and then when you translate, it becomes the simple past tense and he kills. You get the idea? Here, if we were to do it, if we were to do passing, okay, this one is your English translation of the verb. This one is if we do passing, it will be third person masculine singular perfect plus while conjunction. Okay, so this one is, it is not while consecutive, but while conjunction. And so even though it is a perfect, when you translate it, it becomes the future tense. Okay, so this is a tricky one. It's like the old name, while conversive, was quite a good term to try to show you that the moment you add a while prefix like this, the conjunction to a perfect or to imperfect, it changes the tense to the opposite. That's why they thought it had the power to convert. Okay. Now they realize no, it wasn't conversion. It was just a way of talking about consecutive verbs. That means there was already another verb beforehand, and usually that verb has the same tense. So they have to, therefore, this one has to agree the same tense. So when you add the word here, you changes it to the opposite sense. So imperfect becomes a simple past, perfect becomes the future. Okay, questions on this one? Any questions on this one? Why is it like this? This is very tricky because if you don't remember, you end up translating it wrongly. Because you look at the form, it is a perfect, and you may translate it back as and he kept and he killed. No, it's not. It's not and he killed. Okay, so it's a reverse. And then when you look at this, because this is the imperfect, he will kill. When you add in the while prefix, which is a conjunction, and then it becomes and he killed, even though the shape here is imperfect. Okay. So these two cases, or when you add a while with a perfect, and the vowel prefix with an imperfect, it changes the tense of the word. So when in the final state, you see it is very different from the Hebrew form. You get what I'm saying? So you can add the vowel with all the different forms of the perfect. Okay. And then you can add the vowel prefix conjunction with any of the imperfect. Okay. So then under D, there are different cases. Okay, so let me hear this. Let's say if you want to do imperfect plus the vowel as a vowel consecutive. So let's use, if you use the first case, yik, to, then plus the vowel consecutive, it will become wet. Yik, to. Okay, wet, yik, to. So there's a doubling dot. Let's do it. Let's see. Okay. Under D, there are only two cases where no doubling dot. Okay, it will be quite clear that one of them will be the one that has the aleph. Okay, remember there's one which has the aleph that starts off, which is ecto. Okay, ticto, ecto. Ecto means I shall kill. Now, if you want to add a vowel prefix to form a vowel consecutive, okay, so you will have something like this plus the vowel in with the vowel. Since you cannot double it because it's a guttural, like in this case you double it. Since you can't double, then you lengthen here. Okay, you lengthen it to a long A. So lengthen to a long A since cannot double the aleph. In most cases, even with ticto, T ticto, if you do like word and ticto, you can still double it in the sense that it becomes a doubling dot. So it's no longer the lene, but now it is the doubling dot. Like ticto. So this dot is a dagesh forte, and this dot also is a dagesh forte. It's no longer a lene. In this case, this one is a lene because this one is the baguette capital letter dot. But this one is the doubling dot because you're doubling the letter whack. Whack yicto, whack ticto, whack ticto. But then when you come to egg, you cannot. Then you have to wa ecto. Okay, so this is the only instance because you can't double this one, you lengthen this one. So this is one case. Okay, where you cannot double the dot. Because the rest of it you can see you can double because it's a yolk or a T. And then even the N. Okay. In the end you have a nicto. Remember nicto? Nicto will Q. And then you add in a while prefix, then it becomes the same. Okay. When nicto, double the n. So this one is now also the forte. So it becomes n v q. Okay, it becomes this. So all the words can be double except aleph. Okay, dicto, ecto cannot double. Then dictoro, nicto, all those can be double, even the end. So only this case cannot be double. So we lengthen it to a wa ecto. So if you were to read it, take the table and then you can read it. Okay, so icto becomes wecticto, wectictory, wa icto. Okay, then wec wecic, teru, wectictoru, when nicto. So all can be done, okay, except doubling this one. So one of the best ways is write on the table using all the imperfect, add in the prefix, and then you can create all these words and you can see which one, only this one, okay, only this one you can't double, so you lengthen the A. Okay, then second case, 13.2D. The second case where no doubling dot. Okay, this one is some irregular imperfect forms. Okay, irregular, that means it doesn't follow the rule. Okay. So sometimes it is not double. So for example, a word like dowel. Okay. Dawa is bird, and then you have the deep vowel, which is spoke. This is Perkel form. Then when you do, this is Perkel form. Then when you do the imperfect, so when you do the imperfect third person masculine singular, it changes to, you have this form which is here, that, well. And then if you were to add in now the while consecutive, when you add in this one to this form, it doesn't double here. It it doesn't have a doubling. It remains just wet. And then there's a doubling dot on this side. Okay, so there is no doubling dot on this one. you will expect it to form whack and then with a doubling dot, but there's no doubling dot. Okay, so it is a bit of a irregular. So in this case, is and he. So this when you deal with some of these more irregular forms, then notice there's no dot. So there's a second case. So don't have to worry because there are not that many of these cases, but sometimes there is no doubling dot. So the first case was because when you use the form of the thing, then already with the thing you cannot double it, so you just lengthen it to wa. That's the first case. Wa, where wa, ecto. This one is you expect it when you add the while consecutive, you will be a whack with a doubling dot where yet there, but it does not. It does not really that way. Okay, so this is another one of those special cases. Okay, now E is another tricky one. So let me try to show you. Okay, to E. Sometimes it says the vowel conjunction is added into an imperfect. Okay, but it doesn't form. It's not used as a vowel consecutive, but still remain as just a vowel conjunction. Okay. So in this case, let's say if we have a he will kill, you want to use it as a vowel conjunction. Okay. You just add it in and there is no doubling dot. Okay, so notice there is no doubling dot here. It is just added exactly without any changes and no change to Showa. In this case here, it doesn't convert the tense. And so when you translate it and he will kill. So notice here, it doesn't convert. There is no conversion of the tense because it is not a vowel consecutive. This is a vowel conjunction. That means you treat it as a normal vowel conjunction, add to an imperfect, it does not convert. Okay, and because it doesn't convert, two things doesn't happen. There is no doubling dot and there's no change to the schwa. It is just simply appending the vowel prefix to imperfect w, ito, not wek, ito. Okay, compare this wek. Ito, because this is a vowel consecutive. This one is w, ito, and this is not a vowel consecutive, it's just a vowel conjunction, and it still remain back future, and he will kill. See the difference between these two, very tricky. In a vowelless text, there's no clue because if you take away all the pointing, it is exactly the same as this. So you will not know how to translate. But when they invented the system of pointing and all this with all the vowel signs, then when you put it in, they can see there is a difference. One is wet, yikto. One is yikto. This is just adding it as a normal n. It doesn't convert the imperfect to a perfect tense. This one, you add it in and you convert it to a perfect tense, and he killed. That's why this is called imperfect with vowel consecutive. This one is imperfect plus vowel conjunction. Okay, you see the difference between the two? One is if you add the word prefix and you want to treat it as a consecutive verb, it changes the verb, the tense of the verb. So where to becomes NEQ. If you're adding the N to an imperfect and you're not changing the tense, you're just adding as a normal vowel conjunction, then it doesn't change the tense and he will kill. And that one is to. Okay. So what's the difference then between the usage? Why do they use imperfect with a vowel conjunction rather than vowel consecutive? This is more common. Okay. Almost all the narratives, Hebrew narratives start with a vowel consecutive. This is really very common. This one, as Baker tells you, occasional. Occasionally, he says the ordinary vowel conjunction is used as the imperfect without doubling the following letter. In this case, then it simply refers to an incomplete action. Then it's still an incomplete action because it's an imperfect. It doesn't convert the action to a completed action. It just refers to incomplete action and maybe a way of expressing purpose so that. Okay, so it's like you can translate as so that he will kill. So it's like giving some sense of purpose. So this is more used to express purpose. This one is used in a sense of connecting with a previous verb from the previous line. It's like a sense of continuation of the verbs. Then you use this as a vowel consecutive. But you use a vowel consecutive, it will always change the tense of it. You add it to a perfect, it changes to imperfect. You add it to an imperfect, it changes to a perfect. Okay, so F is the good summary. Okay, so now you see if you were to draw a line to split up perfect and perfect plus vowel conjunction. Then you have imperfect, then imperfect plus a more common one, vowel consecutive. But you can occasionally have imperfect plus vowel conjunction. Okay. So let's say if we take the perfect as cartel, then we translate as he will kill. If we would use a perfect with a vowel conjunction, it has a power to change. Okay, so cartel, but you add in a vowel conjunction, it has a power to change and it becomes okay, he kill. This is cal perfect. This one is and he will kill. So notice it has changed because even though it's a vowel conjunction, not used as a vowel consecutive but vowel conjunction, it has a power to change this one. Okay. This one, yikto. Yikto. He will kill. If you use yikto with a vowel consecutive, it becomes wet. Yikto. And then you translate as and he killed because it has convert the tense. If you are using yikto and you're just adding in the normal conjunction work, giấc thủ. Here it doesn't change the tense. Okay, so you see perfect cartel, perfect with the vowel conjunction work cartel, because there is no vowel consecutive, because vowel consecutive we only use with the imperfects. Okay, so when you add it in and that, but it changes, so the tense, keep in mind here, the tense changes. Okay, and he will kill. Imperfect is he will kill. Imperfect plus vowel consecutive wet it to, then it the tense change back to perfect. But if you're adding it to a vowel conjunction will it to, then there's no change. The tense, no change. Okay, so that is the tricky part about adding the vowel to the verbs. Okay. Notice when the tense change. Perfect and the vowel conjunction, imperfect and the vowel consecutive. Both cases the tense change. But the imperfect with a vowel conjunction, there is no change in the tense. It's just a normal adding an N to it. So as he put it here, this one signifies complete action. Okay, and then this one signifies incomplete action. This one is incomplete. And then this one gives an idea of a simple past tense, complete action. This one, of course, is incomplete because it's still future. Okay. So in both cases here, the tense change. So both of them deal with when you add in the vowel. Okay, as we take a break, any questions here? If you really struggle with this, you probably need to ask why, then clear up some whatever difficulties.
Excuse me, Pastor.
Yep.
So what's the difference between the perfect with the vowel conjunction and the imperfect with the vowel conjunction? Because when we translate, it is both and he will kill. But the way the Hebrew write it is different. But the English will be like, and he will kill.
Which one? This one, perfect and
This
vowel
one,
conjunction,
yes.
and then imperfect and vowel
Yeah.
conjunction.
So
Yeah.
when we translate, it is the same, and he will kill.
Yeah.
But then why the Hebrew write it differently?
Why?
Why in the Hebrew they write it differently? Because
Because
the meaning is the same, right? And
yeah,
he
but
will kill.
it depends on the sentence. If you're starting a sentence with perfect, and then you want to continue on using perfect tense, but then when you come to another next verb and then you have a conjunction, if you use this tense, it will change it to a future. So let's say in one part of the sentence you're using perfect, he kill, and then n plus back. If you use an n plus back the same word, it changes to the future, so you cannot. So the next one, then you use a vowel consecutive to throw it back to the future. That's why when you start off a sentence with a perfect, okay, let's imagine you have a sentence here. Okay, the sentence goes like this. Let's say I start off with a perfect verb, which is past tense. And then and then I finish one part of the sentence, and then the next part of the sentence, and I word and then I need to add a verb here to continue on the next part of the sentence. If I were to just add a conjunction with the same perfect verb, it will change it to this. So you find that people will use this one. They will use a while plus a imperfect and a while consecutive and throw back the past tense so that your work will become consistent. So let's say here is he killed, and then here you use the while consecutive and he killed. So it is still past tense. So you will find that it is a way of making sentences which form to prefer as you continue on the sentence. If I'm talking all imperfect, and then when I have a conjunction and a perfect, it changes to future. So I cannot use this form. I'm going to use this form instead. So all depends on the sentence, what you are using. Okay, how the sentence go. Most of the sentences always start off with an N. As I said, I told you, most sentences always end because it's like they assume that there was a previous verb in the previous sentence, and then it's just like a continuation. So they use a while consecutive. And while consecutive means it really translates and into a past tense already. So when you remember reading the narratives, and it happened, and it came to pass, and Abraham went there, and it's always and something past tense. And so if you were to do past tense, then all the tenses that you continue on will have to be past tense. Again, it depends on which form you use to continue on with the past tense. So it's like, for us, it's so simple. You use a perfect, then you use an N. In English, you use a past tense, you put an N and a past tense, no problem. But in Hebrew, the form changes. When you add like that, it changes to the opposite action, becomes incomplete. Then when you have an imperfect plus the while, it changes back to a perfect. So it's not as simple in writing Hebrew compared with English. In English, so simple. I kill, let's say in past tense, and I ate. See, we can write everything like that. The N doesn't change. It's past tense here, it is past tense here. But in Hebrew, you cannot write like that. In Hebrew, if you have a past tense, perfect. And then when you have another N here, I got to use this form. I got to use imperfect and a while consecutive to get back a past tense. And I ate. So, and I ate, I got to use the imperfect and while consecutive form. As simple as in English, where the verbs don't change when you add an N. Because we are adding suffix in, it changes. So this suffix has the, as I said, in those days, they thought they had the power to convert the tense to opposite direction. So that's the tricky part. See, English is so simple; it doesn't change anything of the word. So when you write sentences, I kill and I ate. Okay, past tense and past tense, no problem. But in Hebrew, to get back the past tense here, you will have to use a while consecutive and the imperfect to get a past tense. Because if you use a past tense and the while, it changes back to future. So you cannot like think English to write Hebrew. Hebrew doesn't work like that. Because of the N changes the word. You get the idea? In English, it's so simple. Just one past tense and another past tense. But in Hebrew, one past tense, then the next one I could use imperfect plus while consecutive to get back the past tense. I could use this form to get back a past tense. I could use this. So very often in the beginning of a sentence, because it's always and it happened and it came to pass, or and it and it was. We can see this is past tense. But the Hebrew is what? The Hebrew is an imperfect plus a while consecutive to get this one. So what you see here is a imperfect with a while consecutive, this shape. Okay. Unless they don't use an N, then they can start off with a perfect verb. But it's always with an N because it's a continuation from the previous sentence. So most of the Hebrew narratives all start with vowel consecutives, always in this form. Okay. where your mail, and God said, and he said, where your mail. It's always vowel consecutive form. Where Yikto, and he killed. Where Ikra, and it happened, and it said. So all this is always a vowel consecutive right at the beginning because of the shape. You put the end to a verb, it changes the tense. So you got to see which one to use. Okay, in English, so simple. You can just add a verb, past tense verb, past tense verb. The end doesn't change anything. Here, the vowel conjunction changes the tenses. That's a tricky part of it. Well, when you do the exercises, you will see. Okay, when you do exercises, you will see how it changes. Okay, let's take a break. Then when we come back, just a little bit more about the weak verbs, because weak verb, we have a bit of little changes here and there. And then we will look at what we call passing and then the vocab and look at some of the exercises. (13.3) weak verbs. Okay, what does it mean? Strong verbs are like verbs like this. Okay, strong verbs simply means there are no weak alphabet in each of the three roots. So all these are basically strong. Okay, remember what are the weak letters? Aleph, Ayin, Hey, Het. All these are sometimes what we call very weak. Okay, so when you have sometimes a root letter with X like that, then this one will be considered a weak verb. Or it can be like an Aleph with this. It can be, let's say, a root like so it can be in any of the letters. It can be in the first, can be the second, can be the third. As long as it's something like a weak, it contains weak letters, then that verb is considered what we call a weak verb. Whereas strong verbs will be all those triliteral roots which are the normal letters, and so there will be no, like Shamel, there will be no change to the roots because they're all strong letters. So one can see what David is trying to say, that if you have a weak verb, then when you do the conjugation for imperfect, there will be some necessary changes. That's what he says. Okay, so let's look at example. If you have a strong verb here, and you have the weak verb here. Okay, so let's say you have a word like yikto. Okay, he will kill. So the strong verb uses all the three roots which are all strong letters, so there's no problem. And what if you have a weak verb, like for example, using something like this with the strong H at the end? Okay, shalak. Okay, and so when you come to the one with the aleph, you will see here the aleph part. And you will have an A instead, instead of the normal O. Okay, instead of the normal O, you will see it has an A. So some weak verbs, it says here, have either an A or sometimes an E. So you may have another verb like bana. Then when you do the F, it will have an E instead. Okay, so here you see it has the long O. At this point here, you have instead of long O, okay, it is short A. And here, short E. Because you have the weak, you have these letters here which affects, okay, they're no longer strong verbs. So when you come to this, so instead of the O, the normal O at this point here, you have an A and you have an E. So sometimes you have an A, sometimes you have a short E. So sometimes you find changes like this. Okay, so that is number A, 13.3A. That means when you do the conjugation and coming to this one, I, in the weak verbs, you find at this point here, instead of O is A. Okay, that's one thing. Then under B, again, when we do yik to, okay, but when you have a word like Armel, he said, when you want to do he will say, if you were to follow this, okay, you'll find that it will be an O clause, and then here you will expect it to be something like this, okay. But because of the A, you don't get this, okay. It changes to something like this. Your mouth. Okay, so there is some change, okay, because of the Aleph, which is the weak letter, this is the weak letter here, you will expect something like this, but it doesn't. It's hard to read the word emo, but it changes to your mouth. Okay, so changes that's under B. So for this word with the Aleph at the root word, it doesn't take this form, but it takes this form. Okay, so it becomes an O. So you have, again, all these are just different exceptions when you have to deal with weak words. Okay, C, when you have the initial letter and it starts off with either hey, had, or ayin. Okay, so in a root, if the first letter itself starts off with the H or the had or the ayin, then the prefix vowel is often often an A. So again, yik to, if you have a word which has an ayin, like asa, okay, then it, it will be an A. Yet, X. So it is very different. So you can see, because of the letter here, it doesn't take an O, it prefer an A. instead of I yik to, it becomes yek ek set. So when you deal with weak verbs, you just have to just note that like this will change. Okay. So you do have verbs like this which have changes. Okay. And then under D, this is just to let you know roughly that if you have to deal with weak verbs, if the final letter is the one that has the H, okay, then usually it's omitted. So again, if you have a word like ik, to, and you use a root word like asa, okay, which is a word from he made, okay, then it changes to, because of the A, so yet, said, okay, so he will make, and then if you do while consecutive, the H disappears. Okay, if you do a while consecutive, and then it becomes wet, yet, at. So it is weak, so it actually drops away and it shortens. Okay, so if the root word is an N, then in while consecutives, the H drops off. So here, if we do a while consecutive, it becomes way. So no problem. See, he will kill and he kill. Okay. So if you want to make the imperfect, to, it becomes yet except because of the first letter also in, so it picks up a E, a short E that was under this rule. Okay. And then if you want to make it walk consecutive, you notice here, there's a dot here, wet yet, S, it has dropped off. The whole thing here has shortened. So because it's weak, okay, because it's an H is weak. So there are four verbs used, whether it's asa, aleph, bana, ra'a, all of them loses their H at the end. Okay, the H disappears. So in the table you have asa, it becomes yet esef. Then when you want to make one consecutive, but yet as, there's no more H at the end. So Allah is to go up, and you want to make it imperfect, yet left, he will go up, and you will make a while consecutive, wet yet arrow, and he went up, the H disappeared. Bana, he built, you want to make imperfect, if net, venek, okay, that means is if net, then you want to make a while consecutive, wet ye ben, so lost the H again, so it's shortened. Ra'a becomes year F, and then becomes wet year, wet year, that's it, even shorter because of the aleph and the H doubly weak. Okay, so in doubly weak was even becomes worse. Okay, so that is D. So in D, what is missing? There's something, the H has has dropped off. Okay, so that's what this H has dropped off. So it becomes shortened. So weak verbs basically just to let you know that when you do imperfect, there are changes, four changes to it. Okay, so you want to see the irregular form, then he says, look at 15:1. Then you can see some of the irregular forms of the imperfect. In fact, imperfect is famous for shortening like this because uh, when you have weak letters in some of the roots, it can shorten, especially the last one. When it's an H, you often shorten. So you sometimes don't recognize the root word. So you look at this root word, you may think it's a Y, ayin. Actually, it's not. It is ayin, a shin, and a hey. That is the root word. Okay, this is the root word. But when you do vowel consecutive, it has dropped off. So that's one of the unique features of irregular imperfect verbs because of the weak letters. Okay, let's look at what 13.4 is. 13.4, the old name is simply called parsing. Okay, to parse is to take apart a word and to give it all the different parts. So we have what we call the root. The root is just basically writing down the letters without the vowels. So that when you add in vowels, then it becomes either perfect, imperfect, whatever, it will change. But the basic root word of a verb is the root and is given usually without vowels. Then when we do the conjugation, not conjunction, the conjugation means when you decline the verb in all the different parts, then we use either perfect, imperfect, imperative. Okay, all these are the different short forms. Infinitive, construct, cohortative, cursive. So there's a whole, all this that you're going to study. So we use the conjugation. That means now we tell you what form. This is past tense. This is more of the future tense. This is a command. This is the to kill, to infinitive construct. Cohortative, let us. Cursive is more of like negative imperative, fear not. Okay, so you have all the different range of the tenses. And then you have to give the person, and of course the person is basically 1, 2, 3. First person or second person or third person. So remember whenever we do the 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, these are the persons, whether it's a he or a she, and then the you and the I, they and the you and the we. So we have to give the number for the person. Then we give the gender, and this is usually masculine or feminine. There's no neuter. Greek, there will be neuter, but this one has no neuter. And then we give the number, and the number is usually singular or plural. And then other items, and this will usually be the prefix, sometimes suffix, whatever we add to a word. So number, sometimes you can also have gender is more common. Sometimes you have common. Okay, C for common. So if we were to, let's say, take a word now and we put in the vowels. So how do we pass this word? You say this is a Kel, perfect, third person, masculine, singular. Okay, Kel perfect, third masculine, singular will tell us this is a perfect tense. Okay, and it's a third person masculine singular. That means it's a he. So when we translate it, is he killed. So this is a translation. This is the parsing. So the parsing is something which we should do so that we learn to recognize roots. Okay, so let's for example, let's say if we have a word like okay, do the parsing. So you can tell it is a cow, imperfect, third person masculine singular plus while consecutive, and then translate and he killed. So it's an imperfect because you can see this part is an imperfect. It's third person masculine singular dicto, okay, the he. But it's a vowel consecutive because you add in this vowel prefix, but you convert the tense from imperfect into perfect. So and he killed. So kill imperfect third person masculine singular vowel consecutive. You do a parsing like this, you will know exactly how it will come out and he killed. Okay. So look at the example here. He gives us marrow temp. Okay, so if you redo passing, the root word is okay. This is a root word. So this is a cal, and definitely this is perfect. And then because this is a tense, so this is second person masculine plural. Okay. So Shamel, of course, is to Shamel is to watch or to keep watch. So and no, there's no and. This one is you masculine plural and you no this is you kept watch. Okay. Shamaritan. So you give the root, then you do the passing, kept perfect, second person masculine singular. You masculine plural, kept watch. Okay. Or you have this one, wet. Ish, wet, ish more. Okay. So to do passing, you can see it is the same root word, Shamel, to keep watch. And we can say this is a cow, imperfect, third person masculine singular plus while consecutive. Because this is the imperfect, then plus a while consecutive together. So when you translate it, and he he kept watch. Okay, so back to the past tense. Okay, is something which those days I learned, so that every word in the scripture text we do the parsing. In fact, that was what I was examined in my doctoral studies. First thing they did, took out a Hebrew text unmarked, asked me to pass and translate. Okay, so this give me I think Isaiah 44, I think verses 8 onwards, and then I just have to read every word, do passing. Doing passing means take it apart. Cal imperfect, third person masculine singular plus vowel consecutive, translate the word and he killed. You do word by word, and it was a good exercise. So they make sure that your level of Hebrew is competent enough to be able to pass the exam. Okay, let's look at vocab. We have pronoun we, and that is quite a long word. Okay, act, neck, neck, new. Okay. So it means you really as like this. Neck, new. Neck, new. Very interesting word. Neck, new is we. Okay. Then you have the noun, a word which means the way or the road or the path. And that is DRK. So direct. Double circulate word. So your stress will be right in front here. Something like MacLab. Okay, so direct. That is word for way or path or road. Then you have a verb, which means to walk. Okay, and that will be like. Uh, it is it is not a strong H. It is a normal H. Like to walk. Can also mean sometimes to go. Then you have a proper name, Isaac. And you can see this is Yes. Okay. Yes. So look at our English transliteration is so different. Okay, because it's a Y, I, this is a strong S, and then a strong H, long A, and a Q. Yes. Then you have a noun, and there's the word for glory or honor. Can also mean weight, something that is weighty. That is the word kavod, kavod. Kavod. It's an A. Kavod is a word to describe the cloud, the divine cloud, the God's glory. Kavod. It is a word which originally means something that's weighty and heavy. So that's why can be also used to describe honor. Then we have a verb to cut, and that is correct. To cut, and usually it's a word to use to cut a covenant. To cut a covenant means to make a covenant. So they always use karef, berith. So to cut a covenant is to make a covenant. So they don't use the word asa to make covenant. They use the word karef to cut a covenant. Then you have a noun, and there's a word for not really desert. Desert is only one possible meaning, but it's more the word for wilderness. The word in English sometimes we use the word for the steppe. The steppe are this part of the land where it is semi-dry, and there's the word midbar. So it means you have to read it like that. Midbar. So the land name pops up. Midbar. So midbar actually is wilderness. It's not really a true desert. True desert, there's really no grass. Wilderness still have grass and for grazing. So this is the word. So in the wilderness, God spoke to the people of God, sending Moses. So you find this word midbar coming up. Then you have a verb to become king, or a word which means to reign. And that is from the root word Metlek, which is for king, Now you find that it is a verb instead. So it's malek. So the root word comes from the same word for king. So put it in the different vowels, malak. The malak is to reign or to become king. So we find in the Psalms that often that phrase, Yahweh malak. And we often translate as God reigns. Although it's, this is past tense, okay? God is actually God reigned because it's perfect. But we translate it as a prophetic perfect in the sense like God still reigns and continue to reign. So that's why we translate it as often in the present tense. Yahweh Malak is actually God reigned because it's a kel perfect. Okay. Then you have a name, and this is Noah. You can look at our English translation and you can see in Hebrew it is just no. Okay, so N-O, the infinitive partner A is put in before the H, although it's written H-A, but when you translate it's A-H. Translate Noah. Noah. So our English is quite close to it. It's not Noha. You don't pronounce it N-O-H-A, Noha. It's actually N-O-A-H. The A comes before the final. This special A is called the furtive. Pata is a word for A. Then you have another word, extend, and there is the word Ahmed. Ahmed, to stand. And then you have a particle, which is a word for noun, and that's the word ekta. Okay, so it's I, short A, double T, and then pure long A, ekta. Then you have a name that is Faro. Okay, so this is Fa O. Okay, so it is read as Pharaoh. So it's a P and the H. Pharaoh. Pharaoh. So our English put an extra A because of the I. Pharaoh. Okay, so it's Pharaoh. Okay, just a little bit of time to look at some exercises. So memorize the imperfect form. So I will suggest you use cartel okay, for the perfect and the imperfect. So it's easier that way. Keep to one. So cartel, cartela, cartelta, cartelta is very easy. Then dicto, 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 dictally, ecto. So use cartel to do it. Much easier. Okay. Two, analyze. Analyze means basically passing. So if you have a word like Armel, so the root word is strip away all the vowels. This is the root. Okay. So under conjugation, you can see with this form of the vowels, this is the perfect. Okay. PGN, person, gender, number, third person, masculine, singular. Okay. There are of course extra comments. Sometimes you have, sometimes you don't have. So you have every word like that, and then you can do so the root, the conjugation, the person, gender, number, and find extra comments. Okay, so let's look at one longer one. Were la can talk. Okay, so strip the word and you can see it will be like that. So your root word is L Q H, like. Okay, and again, the conjugation is, it is the perfect, and this is second person masculine singular, and you add in a vowel conjunction, not a vowel consecutive, because it's a perfect. So it's a vowel, it's just a vowel conjunction. Okay, so that means nakef is to nakef is to take. Yeah, to take. So perfect second person, that means you masculine singular took, and then with a vowel conjunction that will change it to uh, what we call the opposite tense. So it becomes, and you will take. So if you translate this one, it becomes this one. Remember, perfect and vowel conjunction also change the perfect into a incomplete action, and you will take. Okay. Till F. Okay, what is the root word? We know it's Ra'ah. To see. Okay. Till F, you can see it's definitely imperfect. Okay, it's like icto, ticto, ticto, tictly, ecto. So this is second person masculine singular. Icto, ticto, so ticto. So it's till F. It's not, because it's a I left here, so it's not O, so it's a E. Okay, but because icto, ticto, ticto, two of them can be the same. So it can be also uh, it can also be the alternative, because remember there are two words. Icto, ticto can be third person feminine singular or second person masculine singular. Icto, ticto, ticto. Remember the two of them. So it can be this or this. There are two possibilities. Only the context will tell you. So if you translate, then you can say it is either she, feminine singular, will see, that is, you are using it as this, or you do this, then it will be you, masculine singular, will see. So only the context will tell you whether it's a she or you, because remember the two are similar. Ticto, ticto, ticto. So this word therefore can have two possibilities. Either she will see or you will see. Okay, now we have fun. Where your married. Okay, so the root definitely is RML. To RML is to speak or to say. Okay, then where your male is imperfect. Okay, third person masculine singular, and then plus while consecutive. Okay, so it's imperfect, third person masculine singular, which means in this case here it will be you will say, but because now we add in the while consecutive and you say. Okay, so it is if you want to put it more precise, masculine, put in the masculine singular. So
Excuse me, Pastor.
yep.
It's not he.
Pardon?
Is it he, third masculine singular?
Sorry. Like your male. Yep. And he said, getting late already. Shall back top. Okay, so the root word you can see is shamek. Shamek is to hear. Okay, so shamekta definitely is perfect. So katel, katala, katelta. Okay, so it is a you must it's a second person masculine singular and there's no other thing. So it is you masculine singular her. That will be the translation. Shamelta. Ra-E-T. Okay, we know it's definitely from Ra to see. So Ra-E-T. So Katel, Katala, Katelta, Katelta, Katelti. Okay, so it is a perfect. And you know now it is a one common singular. Okay, so it is I saw. So you play with the sound on cartel, cartela, cartelta, cartelta, cartelti. Okay, so cartelti is definitely the I. So from the root word to see, so the perfect will be I saw. Okay, let's finish this up. Then we'll call it a night. Yim, yim look. So it's from Malek, which is to rain. Okay, so when you see a suffix, it's always imperfect. Okay, so use the phrase yikto, tikto, tikto, tikto like that. Then you can see. So this is like yikto. So it is third person masculine singular. Then no extra. So it means he will rain. Eh, This is all. This is not okay. So this one is from Haya, and Haya of course means the verb to is a verb to be. Okay. So it's definitely a weak verb, imperfect. So Yik ye, tik ye, egg ye. So it's imperfect. And this is first person common singular. So I will be. Which is basically a divine name lah. Ye, ye. I will be that I will be. So we often translate it as I am because imperfect can be also present. Then you have at or the e because all the weak works. Okay, so it's from asa, which is word to make or to do. So you put a suffix, it's definitely imperfect. And then with the aleph is always the first person common singular. So tikto, ecto. So this is set. So this is I will make or I will do. It is formal way if then. Okay, coming from definitely bana to build. And so you can see that you can see the imperfect form already. Okay, and it definitely plus a while consecutive because of the prefix here. So when so this is third person masculine singular. So he will build, and then you put an N here, and he built. Back to the past tense because it's while consecutive. So you have to do this part first. He will build, then you add in the while consecutive, and he built. Throws back to opposite. Okay. The last three. Where yet F's. Okay, so root word again you can see is asa because this one has dropped off. Okay, so basically asa of course is to do or to make, and this is the imperfect. Okay, and definitely there's a while consecutive because you add the so if you take it down, while consecutive is yet s self, so probably third person masculine singular. So and he will make and he made. Okay, put it back into while consecutive. So this will be the translation. Tick. Tick. Two. Okay, so it's from Karef. So this is a suffix, so therefore has to be imperfect. So use a sound to try to get to this place. So tikto 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 tiktoli ekto. Okay, then yiktalu tikto na tiktalu tikto na nikto. So the oo with the tick is definitely second person masculine plural. Okay, so you masculine plural will cut. Okay. Te, et, su. Okay, so it's still asa to make or to do. Then you see a prefix, so definitely is imperfect. So the question now is, what imperfect is this? So again, use the sound. Yikto, tikto, tiktali, ekto. Okay, yikkalu, yikkalu, tikto na, tikkalu, tikto na. So it's the same as second person masculine plural. And nekto. So this will be you masculine plural will make. Okay, so basically is looking at things like this, and you can see there's a prefix, then this imperfect, and then you look at this ending, you will find out it is the masculine plural. Okay, so it's basically this one is the vowel consecutive, and then from here you can see it is something has dropped out. Vowel consecutive, the H has often dropped out. So imagine there was an H here, then you have the first part of the sentence. So basically, using a pencil, how do you cut, and you can figure out what was the original root word. So you have to get to the root word. For the root word, then you do the conjugation, the person, the gender, the number, and then anything that's extra. So in passing, you do all this, and then you do the translation. So this part is the passing. So actually very good exercise to do passing because it makes you look at each word and take it apart, and then you'll be able to analyze it. So it's called analysis. Okay, you analyze the different parts of the word. Okay, so it is tricky as you're learning more things now. Okay, so if you need, as I say, you have to memorize both the perfect, imperfect tables. So I memorize by using the sound, and then I double check it by just going through exactly which point I'm looking, which one I'm looking at. Second person masculine singular, plural, or whatever. So use the sound to help you to remember the table, the conjugation table. Then you can check out. If not, of course, the easiest way is just print out the two charts that I given you. Then you just look at the chart and you can see where to find exactly. Okay, because you're not memorizing for exam, so it's quite easy. So go back and do the exercises in number 3, page 81. So the next week we'll look at all those exercises. Most of them are quite okay. They're not that tricky. Only one or two maybe a bit more tricky. The exercises, if you can do it, that means you can understand what is imperfect and all the different conjugations. And then we will continue on with lesson 14. Now we come again to reading, and we're reading again from Genesis verse 3, 4, and 5. So we're actually doing. Okay, so good night and have a good time to exercise. Do exercises.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Thank you.
Do exercise, you won't learn. Won't learn. Okay, do the exercises to learn. Wrong, so never mind.